Here are 7 things I wish I knew before I became a digital nomad. And this won't be, oh, working from the beach actually sucks. So if you're dreaming about becoming a digital nomad, planning it, or maybe you already are one, this is for you. My girlfriend and I actually became digital nomads as we had started our own business, but we didn't make quite enough money to be able to quit our normal jobs yet, at least while we were still living in Copenhagen in Denmark. But we were able to quit our jobs at that time if we were to travel to countries that were relatively more affordable. So naturally, we started looking at countries in Southeast Asia and in Latin America, because I mean, if you Google best countries for digital nomads, these are probably most of the countries that will pop up, especially if you factor in the affordability, which was a big part of it for us. And so we ended up spending most of our time in Indonesia and in Thailand. And both are, of course, amazing countries and we really loved it. But I think we perhaps limited ourselves a little bit to only be looking at a set number of countries that perhaps were deemed great for digital nomads. Ultimately, we did end up spending 2 months in Italy and only spending a bit more than we were doing in Southeast Asia. And I think we just had to switch our mindset a little bit and think a little bit different. Of course, we couldn't afford to stay 2 months in Rome, so we would look at small, not very popular cities, and of course also compromise in some other places. For example, we spent 1 month living in this tiny town up in the mountains south of Naples. We rented this beautiful old huge building, had it all to ourselves, and could go on amazing hikes and go down to the square and chat with the locals. We had great Wi-Fi and it was very affordable to live there. But of course we had to compromise in some other places. For example, we were staying in the middle of nowhere. The nearest bigger town was a bit away, and there was no supermarket in our little town. And as we were still on a budget and trying to not spend so much money, we couldn't afford to rent a car. So when we would go places, we had to take the local bus, which didn't leave that often. But I mean, as I said, just some different compromises that we then had to have. Now we were in Italy. That had been a dream of ours. We were much closer to our family, so we could easily fly home for birthdays and so on. So I guess I wish we had challenged what we thought were good countries for digital nomads a lot sooner. We would stay at least 1 month in each city, and preferably even longer than that in each country that we visited. And we really like to travel this way. It's really allowed us to, immerse ourselves in the country and just get to know a bit more than if you were just there for a week or two. And of course, staying longer in each place allowed us to have more time for both work and for traveling and seeing all the things that we wanted to. But man, travel planning can take so much time. Researching locations, looking at visas, trying to find long-term accommodations that's not too expensive, and constantly looking at flights. Basically, we were constantly travel planning. And that does take some of the excitement out of it, even though we do actually like to do the travel planning normally, but we were constantly spending a lot of time travel planning. And of course, you can be much more spontaneous than we were, but because of work, we needed to have some idea of where we were and where we were going to be, in particular because of point number 3. Having flawless Wi-Fi can really feel like a luxury sometimes. But I mean, when we're working online, in particular with what we do, working with large video files, sending huge files back and forth, having video calls, webinars, we just need good Wi-Fi to be able to do our job. And it can be pretty hard to know exactly what you're gonna get. So our backup solution was always to buy a local SIM card each with the carrier that has the best coverage rating and preferably get unlimited data. But now that I think about it, we did spend a lot of time actually worrying about having and finding a reliable Wi-Fi connection. In general, I think it's great to remember to enjoy life just a little bit. But I know that we went into this whole digital nomad thing with a very work mindset. We needed to work a lot. I mean, and we had just started our business, so we just needed to put in the hours and hustle. But then again, for us, the whole digital nomad lifestyle was never meant to be permanent. In fact, I think we had planned to do it for just 6 months, but we ended up being away for 18 months. So I guess even though we were just working from other places in other countries, we've really been making memories that, we'll carry with us for the rest of our life. So remember to enjoy it a little bit. And this might be different for you. I mean, maybe it's a permanent thing for you. Maybe you're going to just try it out for a year, but just enjoy it a bit. I mean, you have the opportunity to travel around the world and explore it while working. That's pretty incredible and perhaps a bit of a privilege. So go watch that sunset tonight. Grab a coffee with that new friend you made. Speaking of grabbing coffee with someone, we had big plans about socializing before we left. I mean, we were going to make so many Digital Nomads friends and have beers with cool people every night. That didn't happen. We did make a few really good friends though, but for some reason I had this weird idea in my head that I would just show up at a cool, hip Digital Nomad cafe and just pull out my laptop, and then all of a sudden I would just make a lot of Digital Nomad friends from around the world. But of course it's not that simple, and as with most things you need to put in some effort and perhaps go out of your way a little bit. But it can be really hard, especially as a lot of the people you might meet might just be traveling onwards the next week, or maybe you are. And personally I just kind of hate small talk and that whole process you go through when you're meeting new people and making new friends. And if I also then know that I probably will never see them again after that week or that day, then I think I just struggle a little bit, like committing to being there and committing to that new friendship. Perhaps not the biggest surprise, but we just hadn't really thought about it before we left, how important it is to have those good routines. So for us, that could mean having a very slow morning, as the time difference usually meant that we would work a little bit later in the day, go grab a breakfast, go for a walk on the beach, come back home, do some work, go to the gym, and then chill out and relax in the evening. And that sounds super simple, but when you have to start that process all over again every month in a new place, it does actually get pretty hard, and you have to work for it to keep those good routines. We felt a lot better, did better work, and I guess we're just happier when we had great routines in place. So we really prioritized setting those routines up, and I guess we had a routine for setting up our routines in a new place. So it was definitely something we started to prioritize, and also really thought about whenever we were looking to move to a new place. Okay, how are we going to fit in our routines here? You know that feeling when you think, if I just get this or get here, or just when I become a digital nomad, then I'll be happy and then I can really start living the life how I want to. It doesn't work like that. Of course, it might solve some problems. Like for us, it allowed us to go full time in our business at that point. But I mean, then other problems start arising all the time. So don't become a digital nomad if you think it will solve all your problems. You should do it if you just want to try it, if you think it might be for you, if you just want to give it a shot, if you really thought about this could be a lifestyle for you, sure, go for it. And perhaps being a digital nomad just isn't for you, and that's totally all right. My girlfriend and I are, after 18 months, no longer digital nomads. And not because we didn't like it, we're just ready for the next thing. But you can watch this video right here if you want to hear a bit more about why we actually stopped being digital nomads. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.